I think being curious, being unpredictable, being original is key for any artist. Maybe some people won't understand it or won't get it until they walk through and then see how you're taking these raw materials and forming and shaping them to mimic nature and how it can live with nature, to be, a part of a collection that adds a new dimension onto our natural world. I'm Barney Bellinger. I am a furniture maker, painter, sculptor, artist of many mediums, and like to work with all things. It seems that you can find art all around you and inspiration all around you. You just have to go find it. Over the years, starting back in the day in my grandfather's garage and father's garage, welding at the age of 14, and using an acetylene tank and torch and a coat rod, a coat hanger to weld up panels on a fender or whatever, gave me a start for welding. Not so much art, but for necessity. And then after that, I started, dabbling in some spray painting with spray cans and so forth. One thing led to another, and eventually started painting motorcycles and customizing motorcycles. It was a journey of, again, curiosity and learning continuously about shape and form and relationships and paint schemes and that type of thing. Oddly enough, I didn't know that I was getting an education all the way through. But going into the Adirondacks, I had no idea the impact it would have on me in these wild places of fishing and just cooking out and camping and setting up a tent for my vision and my quest to paint what I was seeing. It was a great influence. We would always catch a couple of brook trout, fry them over an open fire. It was part of life. It's the way we grew up. And when you're there and you've got a little fire going and you're cooking, you look down, you see a root, you see a plant. Early in the spring, when the ice is going out, the mud is a different color. The shapes beneath the ice in areas where there's still ice on is fascinating. And you can see a resemblance of the pickleweeds in each of these small sculptures, shapes and forms. And we have here a larger bent piece of steel, which we've crushed, which also takes off from that form. And here, once again, we've combined steel with wood to achieve this finished piece here. So I really enjoy old machinery, the industrial age, the backbone of American driving force for industry. They all needed machinery and equipment. But later on, some of that machinery is no longer being used, and you can find parts and you can repurpose the parts into art and sculpture. I also enjoy scrapyards in and throughout the Adirondacks. I may be driving up the highway somewhere or on a backcountry road and see an old car. You want to stop, you check it out, you see what's growing, you see the vines that are intertwining between the wheels of a car or whatever. The more material you have, which I have no lack of here, the more material you have, the easier it is, I find, to create. Because walking around, I can shop in my own collections and create pieces that I may never be able to do. I may never create it. I may never have that vision if I don't have the inventory. When you have the inventory of materials, the sky's the limit. Sometimes I like doing subtractive sculpture. So that is taking steel. One time I had a whole cement mixer. I got inside of it I studied it for a year in and out, and then started to remove steel rather than add steel to end up at an end result of shapes and forms, and then weld them back together based on inspiration from the pickerel weeds, which have these great dynamic tension almost in their form. And then juxtaposing each of those together to create a form that is reminiscent of the outdoors. You're recycling it, you're repurposing it, and you have an art piece at the end of the day, or the end of the month, or the end of the year, depending on how big this piece is. You're cleaning up the environment, not that you're gonna make an impact on the whole planet, but if everybody does a little and goes and picks, it'll even be fun. It's like a big treasure hunt. I was talking this morning with a friend, and I said, you know, I always welcome someone's honest thought about what I'm doing. Whether it's, you know, you want to hear that answer or not, it's important for a young artist to take it with a grain of salt and listen and walk away from that conversation, because that may change your thought process into something really great. So you can't go into the world without a teachable heart. It has to be. You have to be able to be taught or listen. And when you listen, you learn. And this is my transition piece. So going from rustic furniture to industrial, we call this our transition piece. So this is still twig and twig mosaic, red willow and striped maple, but we've also tied in a lot of woodworking. And this is all wood, which looks like steel, hand painted to look like steel. What I'm really hoping to achieve as well with this exhibit, I've walked the grounds 3 times up at the Wild Center. And even though you think you know where each of these pieces is going to look right in relationship to the trail, to the trees, the forest, a lot of it is almost like doing a painting. We're going to end up with maybe 14, 15 pieces of steel sculpture of various colors, some not colored. And hey, we may change it at the last minute and say, you know, this looks better here, or this looks better there. So as you're walking through after this exhibit is set up, you ask yourself, walk through, and say, maybe I would have put this one over there. So, you know, you critique it as well. Have fun with that. Why didn't this guy move that? Why did he put that big white one in the middle when I think it should have been over here? That's okay. Yeah. So what do you think about this? The pickerweed. Can you hand me that pickerweed there for a minute? So I'm really excited. My wife and I, Susan, who's, you know, I can only imagine the perspective from my wife's point of view with living with such a crazy guy. I mean, how many people have a 20,000 square foot building with half of it full of stuff? I mean, holy smokes. But she's always encouraged me and always been strong and always, you know, she's my ballast, okay? Because as artists, we sort of sometimes, as I think the saying goes, artists are seldom understood, but usually accepted. I'd like to see young people go home, or old people, or grandpa with granddaughter, grandson, whatever, go out and start to look for some of these things. Start to look in nature. Where's that pitcher plant? What's he talking about? Well, then you got to get your canoe out. Again, we're not mimicking nature, we're only being inspired by it. Mixing this steel and metal, maybe some people won't understand it or won't get it until they walk through and then see how you're taking these raw materials and forming and shaping them to mimic nature and how it can live with nature. No. And how these rusted materials can be salvaged and cleaned and then oiled and then to be, a part of a collection that adds a new dimension onto our natural world without really overtaking it or, stealing the show, so to speak. They work one with one.